Okay. So hello, everyone. Welcome to our June 13th LibsWork meeting. I was just about to say we're really lucky to be joined by Ben Hamilton, who's going to talk to us about a project that he is working on and ways that you can get involved. And then after that, depending on how much time we have left, we will have open time for discussion. So certainly if you have any burning questions, things you want to get opinions on, please put those in the chat because we should have time toward the end to address those. And also if, just a reminder that this is our last LibsWork meeting before we take a break for the summer. So we will be joining back up in September, but you have an hour and a half back on your calendar in July and August. And I will be sending an updated or new Outlook calendar invite and sharing the login information in the listserv. So keep an eye out for that because more than likely it will be a different Zoom link. And I don't want you to go to the wrong place in September. All right, Ben, I'm going to turn it over to you. And thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us. So hi, my name is Ben Hamilton. I'm with the Howard County Library System in Maryland, where we also got some smoke last week. We were talking about that earlier. A lot of wildfire smoke here in Maryland. I'm joined by Jovita Voss and Emma Ostendorp, who are also with the Howard County Library. Emma is the program admin, and Jovita does the most work on this grant that I'm going to talk about. But so Jovita will correct me if I say things that don't make any sense. So yeah, really quick, I have some slides to show everybody, but the gist of today is we're recruiting other libraries to participate in this program with us to create a cohort. The program is professional development for skilled new Americans, and we'll talk a lot about what we've done and what we hope to grab other libraries and to bring them in and to get them to do. So that's mostly my spiel. Again, thanks for having us. It's good to see everybody, and I'll get started and share my screen. Give me 1 second.
Looks good. Oh, but you're muted.
Let me try again. It gave me a little message that because I was sharing, I was also muted, but I don't know. Maybe that's like a me problem. Let me try it again. So I'm looking at some of the comments. Yeah, so I am on one of the library's Chromebooks, and I get a little pop-up message that says your microphone is disabled because you're sharing. But I don't know, it doesn't give me an option to like fix it.
How about if I share your slides on my screen and then you just tell me to advance?
Is that okay? Can you do that? Okay, that would be awesome. I'm sorry.
We always have a plan B, Ben. Always have a plan B.
That's true. That's true. All right, perfect. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I'll start again. I'm not muted. People can see the slides. Fantastic. So the Howard County Library System has an adult education program called Project Literacy. That's where I gotta stop looking at these comments because now I'm getting the solution. Thank you, Chris Baker. All right, but I'm gonna get back into the slides. So next slide, please. Excellent. So we'll cover all these topics today. Talk a little bit about what we've done, what we want to recruit other libraries to do, what that would mean for the other libraries, and what we would ask from the other libraries and what we would give to the other libraries. Next slide, please. Real quick background about Howard County Library. So there we are in the little purple circle. That's Project Literacy. We've been around for like 36 years, give or take. Started as a volunteer program that was run by like I think it was all volunteers at the very beginning, with very little like library support. Now there are 2 library positions in Project Literacy. Like Emma and I are library positions, and everyone else is a contractor on one of 2 grants. So we still think of it as a really small program, but if your library doesn't have a program like this at all, then it's a really big program. So we have 25, 35 instructors on the grant. We do like 40 classes a semester, but I'll get into all that. So just to give you an idea of the size, maybe 400 or 500 students a year for Project Literacy. So there we are at the bottom right there. Next slide, please. And again, so yeah, we started as just volunteers, and now we've been getting a grant from the Maryland Department of Labor for, well, since, there we go, 2011-ish. That grant pays for all of our ESL classes. Like 95, 85% of our students are learning English as a foreign language. We also have an NEDP, the National External Diploma Program, a high school diploma program. The Maryland Department of Labor, they fund all those classes and those tutorial sessions, all the one-on-ones, everything that we do there. Next slide, please. Thank you. So yeah, that's a little bit of what I just talked about. We also have some citizenship classes. And then the one we're talking about mostly today is the IMLS, the Institute for Museum and Library Services grant that we started getting, I think, 2 years ago. This is the first year of the implementation grant. It's a 2-year grant. The second year is when we bring on the cohort libraries. So it's professional development for skilled new Americans. It's been a great program so far, and it's a good pairing with what we already had running for so many years. The programs work well together. Next slide, please. So, goals: mitigate unemployment, but you can read the slide. So those are our goals. Yeah. I don't want to bore you by just reading the goals to you, but stop me whenever if you have questions. So next slide, please. So the reason we applied for this grant, for our English classes, our ESL classes, we noticed some trends in like the students that were enrolling, and they matched sort of statewide and countywide trends as far as like demographics. There are a lot of immigrants in Howard County and a lot of highly educated and highly skilled immigrants in Howard County. So a grant like this is kind of a perfect fit. And that's another reason why our ESL classes are really helpful to have. Again, they've been running for 30 years, and we can kind of offer something else to people who enroll in those classes, and then we find out, you're actually a better fit for this program. If you're looking for a job and you're a doctor from Korea, and you're having a hard time getting into the medical field here, we might be able to help. That's a tricky one though. I always use that example, and it's actually a really terrible example because it's like very difficult, but I'll keep going. Next slide, please. Desirable outcomes. There's a big spectrum. So in a perfect world, everybody would go through the Pathways to Success program and they would either find a better job, find a first job, find a job in their professional field, the field where they received training in their home country. However, it's not always that easy. So any of these outcomes are what we've seen in the first couple of years. We piloted this for 1 year, and now we're approaching the end of the first year of the implementation grant. So we've had people find jobs in their field. We've had people just find a better job. They go through the program and we help them find a better job. Really, they help themselves. We help them help themselves find a better job. It's actually what happens. Some people have returned to post-secondary ed or training. Oftentimes, if you're making the transition from a lot of education in a different country, that's the way to go. Like more education in the United States. So we've had some people do that. All of those are good things. So a lot of what we do is kind of, we have classes, and we'll talk about that, but in the bigger picture, a lot of it is just kind of like resource and information sharing, because it's really overwhelming to try to break into the workforce here in the United States. Just don't know like what the right path is. So a lot of it is just trying to help people find information that is useful. That's kind of the big picture. I like to think of what we're doing. Sure, we have classes. Yes, we have like trainings and very specific things to improve specific skills. Big picture, a lot of it is like a support network that people can count on, and to spread information that they can kind of rely on. Next slide, please. The team. So we have a big team. We have a great team. So it's us at Project Literacy, Joita, Emma, myself. We have 2 other part-time staff members, and then like 8 teachers, give or take, who are all helping with this project. You don't have to. That's the scale that we can do. You could scale it up. You could scale it down depending on your library, depending on what works. We also have a partner, Luminous Network for New Americans. They provide some services that we can't. They're a great partner. We are in close contact with our workforce partners in Maryland. They're on the grant, and then we have a whole board that is very helpful for feedback and for guidance. That's the team. Next slide, please. Awesome. So the way we've designed the program is into 4 levels. These levels can happen like simultaneously. You can go 1 level at a time. If you're a participant, it's kind of up to you. These levels are all offered at the same time though. So we make it as flexible as we can, because everyone's needs are so specific. That was the first thing we learned in the pilot, was it's not a one size fits all. It's not, here are classes, you can register. It's extremely specific for each person. So we try to tailor it that way. Level 1, English classes. The idea is for a cohort library. If you're a very small library, you don't have a large staff to devote to a program like this, you could do conversation classes once a week. And I know a lot of libraries are already doing things like that. That's like stage 1. You could do that. Level 2 would be kind of like topics-based English classes. And I'll talk about these like a little bit more, but instead of just a conversation class, sort of pump it up a level to develop a specific skill. Level 3, we have job search and networking. So moving away from English, closer to professional development, job search. All of this falls under the category of professional development, but kind of as the levels elevate, you get closer to that job search part and farther away from like the English. English is always a part of it though, from beginning to end, for sure. Level 4 is workforce preparation. Next slide, please. Awesome. So level 1, this is kind of what it looks like for us. Conversation classes, they are drop-in. They're really, we don't require registration. We don't require testing. Anybody can join. The conversation classes we found are like a good way to bring people in to find out a little bit about your new students. And they're just flexible. You know, it's something that I think a lot of our ESL students are used to. So it's a good way to start. And if again, if the library has one person who can get that started, that's great. You can get it started. You can get a one-on-one conversation class started or a small group. Sort of an easy place to begin. So that's where we start. In the conversation classes, you can't help but collect some additional information from the participants, the students. So that helps inform like the rest of the program. So level 2. Next slide, please. I can't stop acting weird when I ask for the next slide. Next time I ask for the next slide, I'm not going to do anything. No hand, no nothing. I'm going to be stone-faced. All right, level 2, comprehensive English classes. We have classes on specific topics. So again, we've kind of gotten to know the students a little bit who are showing up to the conversation classes, and this, you know, we're collecting information constantly. So we know kind of a little bit about their backgrounds already. Maybe at this point they've completed an enrollment form, so we know a little bit more in a more kind of official way, you know, and it's documented. We can refer to it. We register and test them at this stage with we use the NRS approved assessment that we use for our Department of Labor grant. We use a CASAS test. Some people use TABE. It doesn't have to be an official assessment. It can be, you know, an unofficial assessment. There are lots of them on the internet that are just like for free. So it doesn't have to be something that you pay for that's like an e-test. It can be something you create in-house. They select classes based on interest. So at this level, we have reading, writing, speaking, listening, pronunciation, and other classes. We change every semester depending on the students who are around. We try to match the classes to fit what skills they want to develop. And we start to bring in our one-on-one tutoring, which is a huge, like really important part of this program. Again, because everything is so specific for this population, the one-on-one tutoring is invaluable. So that comes in here. The number, next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. Level 3, job search and networking. So we have more classes, more one-on-one tutorial sessions. And again, all these levels, I know it sounds like it's going up, but they're all offered at the same time. So students can be in a conversation class because they like the group of people. They can be in a writing class because they want to work on writing. They can be in an exploration of ONET or MWE. MWE is the Maryland Workforce Exchange's website. I don't know if every state has like a similar website for their I guess Department of Labor, but MWE is not bad. It's not super user friendly, but it has tons and tons of resources on it. So we offer explorations for sites like that, help people get their LinkedIn account. Most of our students say they have a LinkedIn account, but they you know, try to distance themselves from it immediately. They're like, yeah, I made that a long time ago. I don't know what's on there. So we can help them kind of get things like that going. And sometimes just, yes, Lisa Shaw, it is a challenge. So we can offer help in all those ways, whatever kind of the participant is focused on. And then we offer suggestions for things that we think would be helpful. So like, yeah, level 3 is still a lot of English, but things that are starting to focus a lot more on searching for jobs, preparing to search for jobs, preparing to apply for jobs. A lot of job fairs. We always spread the word about job fairs. We encourage people to go. A lot of resume building at all stages just to get a resume that is a good base resume. And then we can help with specific like tailoring when that comes up. So a lot of things happen at each level, but yeah, it kind of builds. again, though, can all happen at the same time. We have plenty of people who come in and they skip right to level 4. Next slide, please. Speaking of level 4, which is like really, really focused on workforce prep. So we have a lot of people who come in, English, not a problem. English is great. They already have a job lined up, so we can help with like a mock interview and we can help polish a resume. So with these students, sometimes I think of these students as like low-hanging fruit because we can help them get in and get out, and like it's a win-win. They get the job that they want, and we have like an outcome that looks good for us. So often the thing that makes people nervous is the interview, and we can do a mock interview. The workforce people help us with that, which is really nice. So we do like a panel, maybe 3 or 4 people are interviewing the student. They have the student's resume and the job that the student's applying for. So their questions are, pretty good. They're accurate. I think they are reflective of what questions they might be asked in an interview. And there are other students there because it's part of a class. So you might have one person getting interviewed and then 5 students like watching. Everybody gives their feedback. Then the next student gets interviewed. Everybody gives their feedback. So it's really, really helpful. And even though it sounds really stressful to me and awful, everybody loves it. Like everybody really likes to be a part of it. And they say that it is something that's very helpful for them when they have their interview. So that's a part of this, but that's just one example. It's really specialized depending on what we can do when we hear from someone. Yeah. Next slide, please. Partnerships. Talked a lot about them. The Howard County Office of Workforce Development, they help us a lot with the mock interviews, sometimes with job search. It just depends on if the fit is right. And sometimes it is and sometimes it's not. Luminous, they have a job search. They have more connections with employers than we do as the library. Sometimes students come to us and they think it's this is like a job placement agency. That is not it. We can help like upskill people, but as far as contacting an employer, that we don't really have that. We can really help you get prepared. We can help you search, but we don't have an employer like in our on our speed dial that we can hook you up with. We've found other agencies to refer students to in like library meetings, in some of our meetings for our other grant, our adult education grant. Sometimes those are great relationships. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it's a perfect pair. Again, it's all part of that like kind of big umbrella of sharing information. So yeah. Next slide, please. Oh, but I do want to say about the partnerships. You don't have to go back. This quick facts slide is great. But if you don't have any partners, this program is still totally doable. That's what I wanted to say. We utilize our partners for sure. We refer people back and forth. But if you are a library without those connections, Andrea, I hope you're okay. I hope you're not allergic to wasps. You could still do this program. You don't need to have a whole support network of partners. It makes some things easier. It is not necessary. She's a hero. So the quick facts slide. I might be just stuck on the quick facts slide because of the wasp situation. I hope not, though. So there are 120 participants that were, next slide, please, that we're hoping to serve in the 2-year grant. That's the target. We're already kind of there. We already have, each semester we've had about 40 people, 50 people enrolled and active, kind of coming and going. It's rolling enrollment. So participants are enrolled in multiple service levels simultaneously, and all of the classes right now are virtual. They don't have to be, but all of our classes are virtual for the way we're doing things. So I feel bad about asking for the next slide, but next slide, please. Awesome. Questions, advice. I have some more, but I want to stop for a second to see if anybody has any questions. Well, I have questions for you, actually. No, that's what this slide's about. Are you currently, anybody already have programs like this at their library? Similar, like, or ESL classes, or something that kind of matches this in any way? And if so, how's it going?
We
If
do
not,
not,
that's all
but
right.
I would love to. I think there's a huge need for this.
It is a really good fit.
We have a one-on-one appointment service that we do, which one component of it targets in-language service. So we support 8 non-English languages. 4 of those are done with contractors. We have that we employ specifically for like 10 hours a week to do service. But I'm finding it's not as targeted as really what we need. And then we have a couple existing programs in the area. There's a program called Ready to Work, which is got 4 different locations around Seattle. That's really heavily, I think it's very much like this program, but I think the commitment is so high that it misses a lot of people. So I'm kind of wondering about something like this. It would be maybe less intensive, at least to get people started till they're at a point where they can really, I don't know. I feel like that program has a really high bar. Like it requires folks to spend a lot of their time, learning English, working on the program, doing different things where they're not able to probably be working and earning an income, which here is pretty hard to do, just the cost of living in Seattle. And then we have conversation circles, which they do talk some about job stuff, but I've been wondering, like, to jump right into something like this, to how to find that audience without laying a lot more groundwork than I have, but I'm intrigued by this always.
My name's Maggie, and I'm the programming manager for the Plano Public Library in Texas. And we have a program very, very similar to this, but it's just separated out a little bit more. So we do small talk for conversational English. We work with a partner, Collin Adult Education and Literacy, to do ESL classes at 2 of our locations weekly, twice a week. We work with another nonprofit organization, Light of Hope, to do citizenship classes. And then we also bring in Workforce Solutions as a partner to host some fairs and informational sessions for people trying to find their jobs. And we have a city department within our city. It's neighborhood services, and we really sync up with them to see what the community needs are and what we can partner up and share the word and build that audience.
I just want to point out that there's a comment in the chat from Kristen Wilkins. We currently have conversation clubs that are similar to your English classes. I would love to be able to integrate a focus on workforce programming for new Americans.
And I want to tack on to what Maggie was talking about. We have a program coming up for Plano Public Library. I'm also here in Texas with Maggie. And we're trying to start a workforce, kind of like a job. We're calling it Job Resource Connection, but a way to partner with a lot of our local resources and help people who are searching for jobs and help them with skill building, with, like you were talking about, Ben, have certain sessions where we partner with people around the area for mock interviews, for help with resumes, things like that. We've kind of left the description broad, and we're going to meet every other week And hopefully by partnering with a lot of our community resources, they can get the word out for us to people about this program, and that we will be able to really kind of focus on, okay, who are the people attending now? What do you guys want to see in 2 weeks if you're able to make it back here? What are you looking for? And so we're planning on surveying them for every meeting we have, so that we can kind of tailor what the needs are that we're hearing from the people who have come to the library for this program specifically, and try to give them exactly what they're looking for, if we have the resources to do so, or the partnerships.
Awesome. So, and I'm glad you mentioned surveys, because that is a big part of it. Like I kind of mentioned, we're always collecting information, and then we do formal surveys fairly often to see like what we're missing, what what people are interested in. Cool. It sounds like people are engaged with the same thing at different libraries, which I knew. It's good to hear. Awesome. So I'll keep going. Next slide, please. The toolkit. So one of the things we're going to develop, and we're already, I don't know, halfway there, 50%. What do you think, Jovita? Maybe. She's probably laughing wherever she is. Where are you, Jovita? Are you laughing? No. So we're going to develop a toolkit. It's going to live on the library's website. It'll be kind of like instructions and a bit about this program. The idea is, actually, next slide, please. It goes into more detail. It doesn't just say the toolkit. Yeah, so it's for other libraries. It's for everybody. It's going to be like a free resource. It'll be on the Howard County Library's website, Howard County, Maryland. It will include kind of a lot of the information that we've shared today, but also like lesson plans for all the different classes. And I think for me, the most exciting part of it will be the part that I've spent the most time on already, is kind of like, if this person shows up, then we did this. So, well, actually, next slide, please. I think I get into, yeah, I do. I get into some details. So we're not actually going to cover how to apply for a grant, because that is, you can find that information somewhere else. I forgot to remove that from my slides. But the programming workflow, we'll get into that. We'll get into a lot of what we did. And I think we want to make it as useful as possible. And Elizabeth wants me to make it as useful as possible. So what we're going to do is, we met a student who has this background, and we go into like a little description, and then here's what they did. So we're kind of keeping track of students that are maybe representative of, hopefully, like kind of different models of a student, like A, B, C, D, whatever. So if it's a health field thing, this is what they ended up doing. If it's someone getting into like accounting or IT or science or customer service, and just kind of track how they went through the program, that'll be a big part of the toolkit. And then included with that will be like lesson plans. So if you find someone at your library and you say, oh, this person is interested in this, you can look them up in the toolkit and then see what we did. You don't have to do exactly what we did, but because maybe some of these scenarios, the results might not be what we wanted them to be. But I think we kind of want to include just like what happened, and then what we learned from it, what that student ended up doing. So there'll be a bunch of these scenarios. They're kind of fun to write, and we'll have a lot of them, and a lot of resources that libraries can use. You don't have to join the cohort to use these either. So there's that. And then we'll have kind of our results after the 2 years. All of this will be in the toolkit. How we surveyed students, like how we developed curriculum, just an overview of the whole program with a focus on providing materials for other libraries that can help them get started with something like this. Next slide, please. You know, these slides always seem like a good idea, and then you get to them and you're like, this slide doesn't say anything. Next slide, please. Cohort libraries. Very dramatic. Dun dun. Recruitment. So we're doing we're going to have an information session for libraries who are interested, give them, additional information. You might think, Ben, how could there be more information? You've been talking for 38 minutes. Come on. But there is more information that I could share with you. The application interview process, there's going to be an application for libraries who are interested. And then we'll do like an interview. Cohort libraries receive a $2,000 stipend. I believe it's at the end of, I think it's at the end of the grant cycle, but there might be some flexibility there. Libraries must submit billing documents, and you can contact prolit@hclibrary.org if you're interested. That is what's my next slide? Yeah, okay, perfect. Next slide, please. I was hoping that wasn't all I said. So as far as the commitment from other libraries who are interested, just have to commit for a year, and the library, there has to be some support from the administration. There has to be some support for the project, because it is going to be time consuming. Not too bad though, not really. So it'll be from October 2023 through May of 2024, and we've done like a rough calculation. Oh, great question, Elizabeth. 5. They're going to be. I think the goal is to bring in 5 libraries, and cohort will be done. Then there isn't anything official planned like as a group, but obviously unofficially the relationships formed, you can email and continue to work together, but officially then you're off the hook at that point. But yeah, the cohort libraries will participate in advisory board meetings. They will observe classes. They will give their feedback on like the creation of the toolkit and different resources, and just kind of be around the program. I think observing the classes, coming to the advisory board meeting, and helping with the toolkit will give the cohort libraries a lot of insight into what we've been doing and how we've been doing it. And Emma always says we're building the plane as we fly it, and that's been true since the pilot. We did the pilot, and then we were like, and then we started the first year of the implementation grant, and I was like, man, this feels a lot like the pilot did somehow. But it's been good. It's been a good program. Next, the only thing really like next slide, please. The deliverable is that the cohort libraries each must create a service model and present an implementation plan. They don't actually have to do it. That's not the deliverable, but the plan has to be there. And that's it, other than like participating and creating a plan. And most of the staff hours kind of like tallied up. A lot of those staff hours will be devoted towards like developing this plan from the cohort libraries. Yeah, so again, don't actually have to do it, but have to design the plan, present the implementation strategy. And that, I think, is it. So yeah, if Andrea, if you want to stop sharing, thank you so much for sharing while you were battling the wasp. And it sounded like things were pretty rough over there, but you made it. So if anybody has any questions, now's the time. Maybe I can answer them, maybe Jovita, maybe Emma. Emma, Jovita, do you have anything to add?
Not no, Ben.
Jovita hasn't been the same since the smoke hit Maryland. She's had a tough time with the wildfire smoke. Emma, what do you think?
Yeah, when I was listening to the participants talking about their own local programs, I realized you're already doing a lot, partnering with different agencies in your jurisdiction. I think that's a great place to start because we found out from the pilot and also the implementation grant, partnership is really, really the key to your success. Because without the partners, we won't be able to spread the news and leverage their resources to support our participants.
I don't have a link to the grants, but I think it is around the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Emma, do you remember like the official title of the grant? I think it's under their general like
Pathway to Success, Professional Development for New Americans.
well, from like the IMLS
IMLS.
side.
Mm,
I don't remember like what, you know, because they have all the different categories of grants. I don't remember exactly.
I can find that for you, but
Awesome.
I think you probably, I don't know if you can access it. You probably need to create an account on IMLS site to log in, but I don't know if you can have access to different applications. If that's what you're looking for.
And the idea is for the cohort libraries, we want to attract kind of different types of libraries in different places. So big libraries, small libraries, like we've tried to design everything with those libraries in mind, like a library with a staff. Like not every library has like a project literacy staff of people who could dedicate, 37.5 hours a week to this. But if you're a smaller library, that is a part of the toolkit where we kind of write in how you might be able to implement this with like half a staff member per week. So yeah.
I think Andrea was able to find the link and put it in the chat.
Yeah. That does look like it.
What are you using for your ESL instruction? Are you using like just human being teachers there on site, or like a platform? Or
So we are using human being teachers. We're using for like the digital literacy part. We have like North Star that we use as like a, for some students it's perfect. For some it's too basic. But yeah, the teachers are developing their own lesson plans. Now we do have like a lot of resources because of our ESL classes that have been going on, like our other grant. So there are a lot of resources hanging around. Some of the teachers use Burlington English as a way to structure their classes, almost as like the textbook. But the teachers are, the way we have it structured, the classes end up being really small, like 5 to 1, very, very small students. So the students are not very small. They're the classes are small. So often the teachers are developing things specifically for like, once the class gets rolling, they're like, there are only 2 students in my class. And then they really target those students with their lessons. So the teachers are awesome and like super flexible because things change and they roll with the punches. Like they'll start a class that was supposed to be, business communication, and then it just turns into like a, like a resume class because there was one student that was consistent and they were really worried about their resume. So the teachers are doing a great job developing their lesson plans, but they do have a lot of resources to kind of pick and choose from as like a base. Yeah. Does that answer your question? That makes sense?
it does, yeah. Arlene has a question in the chat as well.
Awesome. So they are, I say honestly, because of project literacy and our ESL classes, a lot of the students who start in the Pathways to Success program are referred there by us. They come to the ESL program, and then we say, you would be a better fit for this Pathways to Success professional development program. So there's a lot of that. People in Howard County are aware of our ESL classes, and they come for those, and then we can kind of pick those out when we do like a new intake, a new registration, based on their test score and based on maybe like a sort of informal interview. We can kind of refer them, but our partners do refer students all the time, and even they're not in the grant, but they're on the advisory board, like Howard Community College. They're close by. A lot of people that we have relationships with do refer students, but the vast majority of our students come for our ESL classes, and then this ends up being a better fit for them. Yeah. And as far as limiting attendance, the grant requires that everyone in the grant is learning English as a second language. Like everyone in the grant is an immigrant. That's a requirement. And yeah, I think that answers that question. And another language, we don't offer instruction in any other language. Can they receive a job search prior to learning English? So that's a great question. And it is only available to ESL students. I'll go answer that. Well, they have to be immigrants. So we have some students in the program whose first language was English, but maybe they're from like Nigeria or Cameroon. There are a couple. They're outliers. The vast majority of the students are learning English as a second or third or fourth language. But as long as they weren't born in the United States, they're eligible for this program, and they also have to be work eligible. But we don't offer instruction in other languages. Some of the instructors have other languages, but it's just a kind of a benefit for their students. The Pathways to Success, the classes are at a high level. So students who are interested, but their English is maybe low intermediate, we will try to help when we can. Usually that ends up being like one-on-one instead of a class. And it's kind of a case by case. Often those students without advanced English skills are good fits for our English classes with Project Literacy funded by the other grant. And then if they have job needs, we try to take care of those any way we can. Maybe it's referring them to a partner. Maybe it's they can dip in and dip out of the Pathways to Success grant if it's a quick thing. But no, it's a great question, and it's one of the really nice parts of having two grants is that we can cover like a couple different groups. That way, the Pathways to Success is definitely for our advanced English learners, and our English classes with the other grant from the Department of Labor are kind of for anybody up to advanced. Now, there isn't like the job help available in that grant, but sometimes we can do that kind of on the side once we're made aware of it. Yeah, but yeah. Thank you, Kristen.
How are you measuring the outcomes and or impact of this? Is it by completion of the courses as opposed to, say, placements or anything like that? Because you did specify that there's a difference between what you're offering there and job placement, which even if you are a natural born American and English is your language, navigating our job placement systems here is a nightmare. There's really a ridiculous amount of hurdles. So is your program is less dependent on that than it is on completion of the courses?
Yes, it's a great question. So we kind of have like two sort of types of evaluation going on for our program. One, we are like kind of countable things. So like if someone starts the program, we always do an intake interview, which is awesome. Like the three of us, Emma, Jovita, and I, we meet with a student one-on-one when we can, and do like a needs assessment. We have like a 12 or 15 questions we ask them. Then we use that, we give that information to the instructors so they can build their classes. And from that, we ask some questions just to kind of target certain skill areas. So we ask them if they need resume help. So at the end of the grant, everybody who said they needed resume help, we will measure like, did they receive resume help? So that'll be like an outcome. That's like a check. Same thing with like applying for a job. You know, have you applied for a job? They say no. And then when they leave, if they've applied for a job, that's like a check. Same thing with an interview. So there are certain things like that where it's kind of easy to count. It is still like survey based, but it's also like kind of, I think of them as like our hard numbers. And then likely if they actually got a job, if they went back to school and enrolled in class, all those things that we can count. The students let us know, or we ask the students and they let us know, and then we can kind of calculate all those things and at the end have a chunk of numbers. And we're also doing surveys because that doesn't cover everybody. A lot of people are, what we found is a lot of people are planning ahead and they're not really ready to apply for a job yet. This is just what we run into, you know, as we're doing it. There are a lot of people whose spouse is working, so it's not like an emergency situation for them yet, but they know that they want to go back to work or they'll need to go back to work at some point. And with us, we're helping them develop skills, we're helping them get comfortable with the job system, but there is no real like final measurable gain often. So we do surveys to survey kind of intangibles. Do you feel more comfortable looking for a job in the United States? Like, have you applied for a job that maybe you wouldn't have applied for before you did this program? What are some of the other questions we ask them? But we have like, I think 5 or 6 survey questions that we send at the end of each semester. And so we kind of are collecting like our hard data and then our like feelings-based data, just because we got to cover all the outcomes, because we found we were just collecting hard data at the beginning and it wasn't representative of how much we were actually helping. Because we had lots of people tell us like, oh, this is fantastic. I feel so much better. I feel comfortable. I did this, I did that. But, you know, they didn't have an interview. They didn't get a pay increase, you know, they didn't enroll in like a bachelor's program. So the surveys are pretty huge to help paint that like full picture. It is a lot of work though. Jovita is doing the surveys. Most of like the hard things I can collect, the teachers kind of collect from their classes and it gets back to me and we put it all in like a central spreadsheet. But it is a big job to sort of collect and report all of that to, yeah, yes, outcomes versus impact. Yeah, we talk a lot about that. But yeah, to record and report everything, it is a lot. So we're constantly working on that, and just trying to make sure that it, you know, it really represents what we're doing. It also makes us look good. Obviously, we want it to look good at the end when we do like our grant report, but also we want it to be representative of what we're actually doing. And there are a lot of people who go through the program and they participate in a lot of English classes. They develop skills. They, you know, grow their confidence, and they have much more of an idea of like a path or a plan. And that counts for a lot. So we report that as well.
And Emma added in the chat in response to Robin's question that for those whose first language is English, we refer them to the local Workforce Development Center for employment help. So that's, you know, for people who wouldn't be appropriate for this program, have other places where they can get assistance. So we are coming up to 3 o'clock, which is the time in this meeting where some people have to leave at 3, but we do go to 3:30. So I do want to give, we're going to keep going, but Ben, I just want to give you an opportunity in case anyone does have to log off. Do you have anything else to share, or you said about the information session, do you have that scheduled?
Not yet. I think we're kind of going to do those. I could be wrong, Emma, Jovita, but I think we're kind of going to do those as we hear from libraries. So I don't think we have anything on the books yet.
Okay. And do you see the it being competitive with getting the cohort libraries?
I have no idea. I'm going to be honest. I have no idea. I've never done it before. We hope so. We hope we hear from libraries. We know that there are already like 2 or 3 libraries that are interested, but I don't know. I hope so, but I know it is a lot. And I know libraries are doing a lot of things. So to take on another program might be more than some libraries can do. But we hope it'll be kind of competitive. But I don't really know. And I maybe I should have given a different answer, but I'm not sure.
And I just think it's excellent project design to develop your own program, but then also develop the free resources and the cohort. I think it's a good structure to scale it and, adapt it for different types of libraries and different types of situations. So really good job. Natalie is pointing out, don't forget to join the LibsWork group on LinkedIn if you're not already there. And if you need any great workforce careers, speakers, authors, reach out to Natalie. So yes, she's an excellent resource. Okay. So we can continue this conversation. We can also see if anyone has updates or burning questions or things. We can basically do whatever.
I have to hop in a few minutes for another meeting, but we are in the final stages of dispersing almost $2 million to libraries around the state of Maine public libraries for remote work. So we're super excited about that. It's one of those rare opportunities where it's like, here's some cash, take it. So that's coming along really, really well. The idea being, which I'm sure other states will share in as well, is, to be able to work where you live. And in Maine, as a lot of other places experience, there are some places where there's greater availability of good paying jobs, and some places where there's a greater availability of affordable housing, and those aren't the same places. So when working remotely becomes an option for people, if they have a place where they can do that, and we have 255 public libraries scattered around the state with outstanding internet connectivity. So we're hoping to build on that. And that's, I wish we had more money to do that, but hopefully we will down the road. The Department of Economic and Community Development has said if this goes well, they may be able to push a little more funding our way in the future.
It's excellent.
Those are exciting.
Now, is that for equipment so people can work from home, or training, or?
It had quite a bit of latitude to it. It was they were targeting rural areas and or underserved populations, or marginalized demographics. So they, libraries could ask for equipment to either have in-house or check out. They could ask for ADA upgrades to make the building more accessible for people to come in and use it. They could use the funding to hire some staff to do, workforce training or technological training. There was really, again, a whole lot of latitude, software, proprietary software that people might not otherwise have access to. They gave a whole wide range of things that they were willing to fund as long as they were able to tie it back to remote work. That was the only stipulation. The one hot mess we did run into, it was more of an annoyance than anything else, but they first, because this is a federal grant passing down through, they were like, well, everybody has to have, you know, a unique entity ID through sam.gov. You know, and at first we were kind of like, but aren't we the subrecipients? Like, why do the libraries need to have that? And they're like, oh, no, 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 everybody's got to have one. And so you can imagine, we have some towns in Maine that were incorporated before the state was incorporated. And so their records are on file with the Secretary of State in Massachusetts. And that was a problem because that's who they're looking to match those records up with. So it was a nightmare. We got a whole lot of people over that hurdle. And then, as God is my witness, the last day that they had to be able to go get those numbers, DECD came back and said, lol, whoops, it turns out they don't really need that sam.gov number after all, because they're the subrecipients, you know, that it was the state library that needed. Thanks. I'm going to so enjoy telling people that. But it was an informative and educational process. So there's that.
Yeah. Very good. We're excited to hear more if you have any details to share as that moves forward.
I'm excited to see the projects that are going to come out of this.
Mm-hmm.
I am curious with the Maryland project too. Are you guys, and the rest of you can tell me if this is even still being used, project outcome is still a viable measuring tool, right, for programming? Are you using that as well for like impact at all, or? Yes, awesome, cool.
Yeah, I don't know, Jovita, if Jovita has anything to add, but yes, we are. We're using Project Outcome.
Sweet.
We've been emailing them and tweaking, like finding out how we can use it best. But yes, we are.
And we did use it during the pilot also in 2020. So.
Oh, nice. And you feel like it worked well for your purposes?
It did, yeah.
Any other questions or updates or anything? Well, in New Jersey, we have an ACP outreach grant. We haven't gotten our notice of award yet, but I will be working with 2 navigators who should be hired part-time to help sign up for ACP. So probably in September, I will be asking if anyone is working on ACP outreach events or anything. And if anyone, even in advance of that, has anything that they can share, I'd appreciate it. And thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Emma, for putting in the cohort, the email for learning more about the cohort. Yes, thank you. So I'm going to put in one more plug. If anyone's going to be at ALA Annual, we have a mixer on Saturday, June 24th from 5 to 7 at Millennium Hall. So that information will be going out in the follow-up email from this meeting. I'll also include the link to the recording and the slides. And Ben, is it okay if I include your contact information and the ProLit email address?
That would be great. Thank you.
Great. And thank you, Ben, Emma, and Jovita, for being here and sharing this really exciting project. And maybe we can even have you back to hear your updates once I've been.
That'd be great. We'd be happy to do that.
So I'm gonna stretch out one more time. Anything else? Anyone? Otherwise, I'll give you 23 minutes left back to your day. You don't have to tell anyone that this ended early. Put your head down and take a nap. All right, I'll stop recording.